Well, hello. It's time for Just a Thought, where we discuss a thought for the week. Just take a few minutes and kick it around and see what comes out of it. I'm, of course, Durrell Watkins, the senior minister of the Sunshine Cathedral. And with me is the Reverend Cindy Lippert. And this is what we do on Saturdays. We have a quote, and then we talk about the quote. We at least start out talking about the quote. Where we go from there, we'll see. But we do start with the quote. Now, you will see that Cindy is sitting up straight and good posture and good hair and all that. You will see that I am crouched over like I'm trying to peep through a keyhole and try to catch somebody doing something. That is because we're going to get our green screen up next week. We don't have it up. And so this white background swallows my head. And it looks like I have one ear already. And so, and I'm having a really good hair day. I want you to see my hair. I don't want the whiteness to swallow up my hair. So I'm leaning forward because when I lean back, oh, look, most of my head is gone. Oh, look, I have like an indentation, like a baby with a soft spot. So I'm going to be like this today. If you see my pores and crow's feet and whatnot, at least you're seeing my good hair today. So, and that's what's important, right? All right. Our thought today. That wasn't it, by the way. That was just all free. Our thought today comes from William Warch. He's a New Thought writer. He wrote the small book, The New Thought Christian. But William Warch writes, just as all elements of the ocean are in one drop of ocean water, all that God is in you. I'll read it one more time. Just as all elements of the ocean are in one drop of ocean water, all that God is in you. What do you think about that, Cindy Lippert?
I love it. I remember the Divine Science brochure that I designed, I don't know, 1,000 years ago, I guess. As the wave expresses the ocean, you express God. You know, it's hard to conceive that we are the totality of all that God is. And yet that's what we are.
Yeah.
We're God drops. I like that visual.
God drops. Emerson said that he called God or ultimate reality or infinite consciousness, he called it the oversoul. And when he was trying to talk about the soul and the oversoul, he said that our souls are like waves in the ocean that show up for a while and then merge back into its source. That was Emerson. He was a Unitarian Christian minister, but also influenced by Hinduism and theosophy and philosophy. He was just a great thinker. But he said, that our souls, they're like waves in the oversoul and the God ocean, and we emerge. We look like we're separate. We look like we're our own thing. We're part of the bigger thing. We're from that bigger thing. We're part of that bigger thing. We return to that bigger thing. And he also compared it to the soul to the sun. He said our souls are like the sun, too bright to look at directly, and yet by that light we see everything else. And so, yeah, these connections, these metaphors, these poetic images for how we are connected to and channels of and expressions of God, there's a lot of them out there. They ring a little hollow until you really start playing with them and digging with them and trying to work it out.
Well, it's hard to conceive of what God is really. We have a lot of different visuals, and we've talked on other broadcasts about this, but it's a confusing thing for a human to even think about what might God be and how does he, she, it work in my life. It's an empowering thought for me that I'm part of the totality, and I return to that. I express as a piece of that in my consciousness, and I return to that when I'm no longer in this incarnation. That helps me a lot. That frees me up from the kind of God that is punishing or has some kind of preconceived plan for my life, that I take responsibility. That's also a heavy responsibility, isn't it?
Mhm. Paramahansa Yogananda said that he would sometimes refer to God as pure consciousness, and then would say we are each a unit of pure consciousness, that we're God units, we're God drops. uh, Rumi said we're not just drops in the ocean, we are the ocean in a drop, the whole ocean
Yeah.
in a drop, which is sort of what William Mortis is saying, that all that the ocean is, the vastness of the ocean you don't see in a drop. A drop is a drop, but all of the chemical makeup, all of the minerals, all, it's still water and oxygen and salt, and all that the ocean is in that drop. And so that drop isn't the entire ocean, and yet all that the ocean is in the drop. And that's really what that's what the God experience is. We can't, in our human mortal frame, express the totality of God, and yet what we are is God expressing.
Well, all of these great spiritual philosophers and religious philosophers come back around to the same idea. This goes back to ancient Egyptian religion, and on and on and on. It keeps getting repeated. And of course, you and I believe that that's what Jesus's message and philosophy, as it were, was all about. I was thinking this morning that we set goals for our lives, and we dream about what we think we want, but we get wrapped up in how that's going to work out. How am I going to accomplish that goal? And it occurs to us, if we believe in omnipresence, not omnipresent, but omnipresence, that God is everywhere present equally, that dream, the unction of our heart's desire, is divine. And all we have to figure out really is the why. What is our motivation? I want a brand new Cadillac. Why? I want to show off for my friends. Maybe that's one reason. Maybe another one is I want a large car because it makes me feel safe. That's another motivation. So getting in touch with the why for the what, I think, enables the how. I know
Yeah.
that's a lot of words.
And I think it's all love. If I pray for Cindy Lippert to fall madly in love with me, I think that's going to make me feel love. That's going to make me feel whole. That's going to make me feel special. I don't know. Maybe I don't realize yet. It doesn't have to be Cindy Love. It doesn't have to be Cindy Lippert. It can be Canary. I need to. That maybe how I feel loved is to love myself. Maybe how I feel loved is to take care of a canary that thinks I'm God because she has food every time she wants it or whatever. But whatever I want, I think it's going to make me feel good about myself and my place in the world. If I want $1 zillion, I think it's going to make me feel safe and successful. If I want, so everything that I think I want is really me wanting to feel safe and whole and good and lovable. And there are more ways to have that than whatever I just imagined.
Exactly. And that's why the why helps, because I may think I want $1 zillion because it'll make me happy. Well, guess what? It won't. We know a lot of unhappy people. Yeah. We also know happy people that have $1 zillion. So, but your why is the key to that.
It seems to me that happy people, whether they work for an hourly wage or whether their money makes them money, whether they're working for a salary or on commission, or they just have $1 grillion that's making them another grillion while they sleep. The happy people are the people who share what they have. That it's not about what you have, it's about what you do with what you have. And the people who are generous, the people who are kind, the people who use what they have to bless others, those seem to be the happy people to me. It's not about what the bank account says, it's about your relationship to that account. And people who share it and try to, add joy to the world. Oprah seems like a pretty happy person to me. And she's a billionaire, but she's putting dozens of girls through college. And she would give audiences cars, and she's a generous person. She believes in generosity, and that seems to add joy to her life.
I believe that. In fact, you've so hit on it. I think it boils down to comfort, peace of mind, and, satisfaction, and however that comes for you. But I'm reminded also of a woman I met years ago, and she said, well, I used to be lesbian, but I'm done with all that. And I said, okay. And she
Used to be
said,
human, but I'm done with all that.
I'm done with all that. Right. And I said, okay. She said, I just want to find love. And I said, could you open your heart to love in whatever form it comes? And it was like a light bulb went on. I said, you're after love. I don't think you're after, it has to show up in a particular package.
Yeah. A lot of people didn't know they were gay until they fell in love with someone of the same gender, or they thought they were gay. They didn't know they were bisexual until they fell in love with someone of, that when love shows up, that kind of tells you who you are. And,
there you go.
And there's no need in arguing with it. Don't turn away love because it didn't fit your preconceived definition of how it's supposed to show up.
Yeah, exactly. Well, humans want to be loved, accepted, and feel safe.
Yeah.
And comfortable.
We know we need shelter. We know we need food. We know we need medicine when we get sick. We also need companionship. We really do. That's a need. And we should have our needs met. I think it's perfectly okay to want our needs met. I think they should be met. And one of the ways we get our needs met is that we work hard and, we do all the things that we should do. But sometimes things are beyond our effort. And so then what we need is for people to help us. And so like Oprah being a philanthropist, the Gates being philanthropists, the Carters building houses. I mean, they're in their 90s. Sit down already. Nope, got to build houses for people. That people who give like that, people who are generous that way, I think that is sort of proof of our unity with God. God is giving this. God is love. Love gives. Love gives unconditionally. Love doesn't want anything in return. That's what God is. And so when we're like that, maybe we're like that with our pets or our children or with our community, maybe with the world, just whatever our higher we get in consciousness. But the more we give unconditionally, the more we're expressing God, because that's what God is. So if you've ever loved someone unconditionally and expressed that love with ridiculous generosity, expecting nothing in return, you've expressed God. You know what God is. You know what God is like because you embodied that. At least maybe it was just with your kid or your grandkid. Maybe it was only once. Maybe it was with your spouse. But if you've done it ever, that's what God is. And so you know that. And so that to me is sort of the proof that we are one with God, because when we love without conditions and without restraints, we are expressing what God is. We are that God drop, showing you that what God is what we really are, which is love. Well, and love gives.
It also reminds me, may peace prevail on earth, and let it begin with me, but let love prevail and let it begin with me for myself. That if we don't love ourselves, then the only love I can give you is bait.
Right. Well, that's the gospel of RuPaul. If you don't love yourself, how in the hell are you going to love anybody else?
Now
RuPaul
I find my church. Now,
right?
Yeah.
That is the gospel of RuPaul.
Yeah.
If you don't love yourself, how are you going to love anybody else?
No, you can't. It's bait. I put bait on my hook, and I hope you'll take it and make me feel good about myself because you love me.
We get, and we're down to our last 2 or 3 minutes here, but we get from these programs, where we talk about what God is. God is love. God is omnipresent love. Love is unconditional. Love is all inclusive. Love is giving. The Apostle Paul had a list. Love is kind. Love is patient. Love is never rude. Love doesn't seek its own interest. So we have all of these things, and invariably, I get hate mail, and saying that we are misrepresenting God. That yes, God is love, but, and then they have they have this really detailed theology why love is dysfunctional and abusive and exclusive. Wow. And restrictive. That yes, parents love their kids, but sometimes they got to smack them around and lock them in a closet and get help, y'all. That's not good parenting. No. and it's certainly not good godding.
No, it's terrible godding. It's terrible.
And or there's God's love, but there's also judgment, and you've just reduced God to nothing because you've defamed God, and it's almost heartbreaking to me.
Yeah.
It used to annoy me. I'm like, who are these angry, mean people?
Yeah.
But I'm older now, and now I'm like, who are these hurting, broken people?
There you go.
That their highest concept of love is that abusive.
That's right.
That God requires a human sacrifice to even think about accepting us.
Yeah.
And then still might not because of these 20, 30 reasons that we didn't follow. And I'm like, we'll never be better than our God. If that's our God, we'll never have healthy, loving relationships. We won't be better than our God.
That's perfect.
So
right there.
So if our God's an asshole,
yeah,
we're going to be an asshole.
Right. That's the thought right there. We'll never be better than our God. That's our thought today. We'll never be better than our God.
When I came out to my grandmother hundreds of years ago, and she was a sweet little hillbilly lady who grew up believing, what people told her to believe in her little church, in a little community, whatever. She grew up in a segregated South, fundamentalist church, all of that. Got through the 8th grade, the Depression, all of that. So I was really scared to tell her that I was gay. I thought it would just break her heart. I thought she would, maybe just fall apart, crumble. I had a therapist tell me, because I'm like, I'm so close to my grandmother. I want her to know the truth about me, but I don't want to hurt her. And the therapist said, there is not a case on record of anyone dropping dead upon hearing the news that a loved one was gay. So I summoned the courage. I told her, I gave her some brochures, some PFLAG brochures or whatever. I went to bed. And she woke me up early the next morning. I've never been an early riser, but she couldn't wait. She woke me up the next morning and she said, if I've ever said anything that hurt you, I'm so sorry.
Oh.
And in that moment, I think I had a consciousness shift. I think I realized in that moment, if God isn't as good as my grandma, I don't need God. I'll just have grandma. Yeah. God, for God to be God, God has got to be as good as my grandma.
Wow.
And
that's so great.
Because in that moment, grandma was a God drop.
Yeah.
She was showing what God is. Yeah. Unconditional love. And love is all inclusive. It's unconditional. It's everlasting. You can't earn it. You can't lose it. So in that moment, she was the God drop. That's one of those moments where you see that we are one with God. Yeah. And, Rumi says we're the ocean in a drop, and Mort says, and Emerson says we're a wave in the ocean, blah, blah, blah. Jesus said it even more simply than all of that. He said the Father and I are one.
Yeah.
Abba and I are one. God and I are one. The Mother and I are one. The Spirit and I are one. That's it. I am one with that which is. I am part of that which is. I'm part of my source. It just makes sense. And Jesus said it. The realm of heaven is within you. Well, of course it is, because it's what I'm made of. He said God is spirit. Well, what is spirit? Spirit is breath. Spirit is energy. Spirit is wind. Spirit is life. And that is omnipresent. Spirit is everywhere. Who's not part of it? Who gets left out of it? And so, we get all philosophical and mention all of these great people whose names we can barely even pronounce. And then really Jesus was saying it. God and I are one. God is spirit. She blows everywhere, on everybody, through everybody. And
what I've done, you can do.
Yeah. And 1 John 4:16, that's not Jesus, of course, but it's from a follower of Jesus who said, God is love. And whoever, my favorite biblical word, whoever, God is love, and whoever lives in God lives in love. And whoever lives in love lives in God, and God lives in them. That's 1 John 4:16. A little shorter version of that is also in 1 John 4:8. So it's repeated. But God is love, and whoever lives in love lives in God, and God lives in them. So whenever we're loving, genuinely loving, not manipulating, not being transactional, not trying to, not putting bait on the hook, but whenever we're really loving, expecting nothing in return, that's a God moment. And we're showing ourselves to be God drops because we really are one with God. Or as our friend William Warch put it, you know what? Oh, I pulled up another thing. This is John 17, where Jesus is praying. and then the prayer says, I in them and you in me, so that they may be brought to complete unity. Even his prayer, I'm in them, you're in me, I'm in you, we're all part of each other. That's in Jesus' own prayer. I in them and you in me, so that they may be brought to complete unity. So I guess that's the thought for the day. It's just a thought. It's the thought of Jesus. It's the thought of Paramahansa Yogananda. It's the thought of Ralph Waldo Emerson. It's the thought of Rumi. And it's the thought of William Warch. Just as all elements of the ocean are in one drop of ocean water, all that God is in you. It's just a thought, but I think it's a damn good one.
Yep.
How about that?
How about that?
All right. Thank you, Cindy. I guess we'll do it again next week, huh?
Okay.
All righty.
Take
Goodbye,
care.
everyone. God bless you.